Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of the Marc Talk Podcast. I'm Mark, and today on the show I'll be previewing WWE SummerSlam. I'll be talking about the Red Sox, and I'll talk about what life was like before smartphones. But before we get into all that, if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified as to when I post new content. Click the like button and be sure to share this podcast with your family, friends, and on social media. I would appreciate it very much. So, with that being said, let's just get right on into it. We are quickly approaching WWE's biggest party of the summer, WWE SummerSlam. SummerSlam is Sunday, August 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live on the WWE Network. Which, by the way, the WWE Network got a brand new update. The update includes an easier navigation, a much needed improvement to the search function, and the WWE Network has finally moved away from Flash and is using HTML5. Anyway, let's take a look at the current match card as of this podcast taping on July 29th. First, we have Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. And I think that this match is going to be a good match. And provided, though, if there's no pre-match attack like at WrestleMania when Lesnar attacked Seth Rollins, and basically it really wasn't a real match until like 10 minutes after they started fighting. But if the match has a clean start, I think it has a potential to be one of the better matches here on the SummerSlam card. I think ultimately Rollins will win the Universal Championship, as I think WWE just wanted a reason to get Lesnar back on the match card, to get him into SummerSlam. So I think that's why they had him cash his Money in the Bank contract as early as they did, just to get him on the SummerSlam card and to get that cash in out of the way. But yeah, Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar has a great potential to be a good match, because Brock Lesnar, he likes working with Seth Rollins. They wouldn't have had this many matches if Lesnar didn't like working with them. So, and usually when Lesnar likes working with somebody, they usually have good, decent matches. So that's why I think it's going to be a good match, with Rollins ultimately coming out the winner. And next we have on the card Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. I think this is going to be a pretty entertaining match, with Kofi going over and retaining this title, unless someone from the New Day, Big E or Xavier Woods, turns heel and costs Kofi the title, which that will be a good storyline going down the road. I think it's time for them to break up the New Day, do something different. They've been doing the New Day, since like 2014, I think. So I think a good change of pace is coming if they decide to go down that road. But if not, I think it's going to be an easy win for Kofi Kingston. Well, not easy, but the match is surely going to be entertaining. With the history that Orton and Kingston have, I think that Orton, he's going to have momentum for a majority of this match, with Kofi making a late rally in the match to win, providing there's no heel turn from any member of the New Day or anything like that. So, yeah. And I think that Kofi Kingston as a champion, he's been good. It's been entertaining, but I'd like to see them drop the New Day gimmick. To me, it's just getting old. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, next on the card is Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, with the stipulation being that if Kevin Owens loses, he will quit the WWE. I really don't care much to see Shane McMahon wrestle anymore. I really don't. And I expect outside antics from Elias and Drew McIntyre in this match, but ultimately, I think Kevin Owens will get the win, especially since SummerSlam is in Canada this year. Perhaps somebody like Roman Reigns helps Kevin Owens if there is outside interference, which I very much expect there will be. So, yeah, it should be an entertaining match, but I think that Owens will get the win, and hopefully this will get Shane McMahon off of TV for a while. So anyway, guys, another match we have on the card is Becky Lynch versus Natalya for the Raw Women's Championship. I think this will be good. it'll be a good match with Lynch picking up the win. Perhaps maybe Ronda Rousey will return and maybe build up a one-on-one match between the two of them somewhere down the road. I think Rousey returning and doing something with Becky Lynch will be a good SummerSlam moment. So, yeah, I think... But if that doesn't happen, it should be a decent match anyway with Becky Lynch picking up the victory. Next on the card, we have Bayley versus Ember Moon for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think Ember Moon wins the title. I honestly do, and the reason being is because I think Sasha Banks returns and costs Bayley the title out of jealousy for her success. If this is booked right, and this does happen, the rivalry and the match can be great somewhere down the road, potentially at Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble, or save it maybe even for WrestleMania. Next we have Charlotte versus Trish Stratus. And at the time of this recording, this hasn't officially been confirmed, but I think it's going to be confirmed on this upcoming Tuesday's episode of SmackDown. Trish Stratus is advertised, so that's why I'm including it on this match card. I think it will be a competitive match with Trish Stratus picking up the win because, as I mentioned earlier when talking about Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, SummerSlam is in Toronto, Canada this year, so Trish, I think, will get the win here. Unless they really wanted to pull off a shocker and put Charlotte Flair over, which would be good for her career, getting a win against a legend like Trish Stratus. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I think it could go either way, but ultimately I just feel that Trish Stratus is going to win this match. And the final match on the official card as of right now is Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt, The Fiend. This match, though, is up in the air because at the time this podcast is being recorded, Finn Balor is dealing with an illness, reportedly. So, if the match, though, does indeed happen, I think Wyatt needs to squash Balor. Balor wants to get off TV anyway, so this would be a perfect time to do a squash match. Get Bray Wyatt over and build up his character. I think if they do this right and build up Bray Wyatt's character, he could be an unstoppable force and really gain back credibility that he's been missing over the past couple of years. So, yeah, I think the current SummerSlam card, though, it's interesting. I mean, Roman Reigns, he isn't on the card yet, but I think him and Samoa Joe will probably have a match with Reigns winning, just so they could get both these guys on the card, because right now neither of them, at least as to my knowing, they aren't booked for anything on this card yet. So, yeah, guys, I mean, I think the SummerSlam card is good. I think SummerSlam will be a good pay-per-view, but I hope they do get some unexpected angles and storylines, and overall just a good batch of good wrestling. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be good, and has the potential to be one of the better pay-per-views of 2019. Anyway, guys, now let's move on to some baseball. Talk a little bit now about the Boston Red Sox. Before we get into the Boston Red Sox team itself, though, let's talk about for a minute former Red Sox designated hitter David Ortiz. He was released from the hospital over the weekend and made his first public comments since he was shot back in, I think that was June, Here's what David Ortiz said in a statement. Being at home and look at my family celebrating that I'm here, safe is priceless. Thanks for all the prayers. Too bad I can't crush food. Yeah, hang on. Just lost my notes. Alright, so let's reread this because I lost my place looking at my show notes. Being at home and look at my family celebrating that I'm here is safe and priceless. Thanks for all the prayers. Too bad I can't crush food yet. I think it's great to hear from David Ortiz and that he's recovering and he's going to make a full recovery. But as for the Red Sox team themselves, I think they're in some trouble. The Red Sox are 9 games back in the AL East, which is in 3rd place right now in the division. They did win a series versus the Yankees this past weekend, but overall, they've been struggling this season. They haven't had consistent pitching, especially from the bullpen, and Chris Sale, he's been struggling at home, but he did get his first win recently at home at Fenway Park this year, so that is a step in the right direction. I think the best chance they have is getting into the wild card, in a wild card spot, but they will need to make some moves here at the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to see how this team performs going forward, and if they have the ability to come together and make the playoffs like they did last year. Because once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen in sports. That's how I felt about any sport. Now, if you get into the playoffs, if you qualify, get into the playoffs, anything and everything can happen. So if the Red Sox make it to the wild card, don't count them out on winning the World Series. Now, that is so far down the road still. We still got, August, September, October. Still got almost 3 months left here in the season. The regular season doesn't end, I think, till the end of September or the beginning of October. So yeah, the Red Sox, they do have a little bit of time, but they will need to string up a lot of wins and start playing good baseball coming up the remaining of the season. And it will be interesting to see if they make moves at the trade deadline and see if they get rid of anybody major like Mookie Betts or Jackie Bradley, or if they just get some organizational depth, like maybe add depth to their bullpen or utility guys, But anyway, guys, they need to make a move, and it'll be interesting to see how the team performs going forward. Let's change gears now, and the last thing I would like to talk about is life without smartphones. The first ever smartphone in the modern era, I think, was released in about 2007. Smartphones back then, if you wanted to play games, send emails or instant messages, watch videos, check social media, which really the only major social media outlet at that time was MySpace, you had to use a computer to do all these things. You couldn't do these on your smartphones, you couldn't watch YouTube videos, you couldn't send emails, you could text, but usually texting, that was annoying because you'd have to hit one button 3 times to get one letter, so that was annoying. And if you needed to make a phone call back in those days, you either had to have a flip phone or a landline house phone. And let me tell you, with flip phones, you didn't have the internet unless you were rich, because having internet on your phone back then, guys, that was a luxury. I didn't get my first smartphone, no, not my first smartphone, excuse me, my first flip phone until 2008. And the only reason I got a flip phone back then at that time is because that's when I started walking to school by myself. So I had a flip phone basically in case of any emergencies. So, and if you're wondering, I didn't really get my first smartphone until June 2013, which was towards the end of my junior year of high school. So overall, I mean, kids today in general are spoiled. They are never going to know what life is like without a smartphone. There is no reason in the world that I can think of, at least, why kids who are 6 to 10 years old need a smartphone. It's clear the times have changed, but I remember being a kid without a smartphone and life being so much simpler. There was no such thing as social media as a kid unless you count MySpace or Club Penguin. That was like the best social media platforms kids had. But even then, Club Penguin was a game that you needed a computer to play on, and there was no drama back in those days with phones, smartphones in general. You weren't checking your phone every 5 to 10 minutes to see if there was a new post on social media. So, man, I think overall smartphones are a great tool when used properly, but don't let the phone take over your life. Everybody today is in a rush when they hear that phone vibrate to see if they get a text message or not. I mean, the text message can wait. It will still be there. I mean, I can't tell you how annoying it is when you're in a conversation with somebody and all they're doing is sitting there staring at their phone. It's like they'd rather be using their smartphone than having a conversation with that person. It's just rude, it's ignorant, arrogant, and it's unnecessary. You don't need to be on your phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The text messages you get will still be there when you have time to look at them. The phone calls, you'll be notified if you missed the phone call and you can return that phone call back. So it's so unnecessary for everybody to be glued to their phones, and they're letting the phones take over their lives. That's why I think life was so much simpler back in when I was a kid, back in like 2006, 2007, without smartphones. The only phone you had was a flip phone, which I personally only really used in case of an emergency. Phones, like I said, they are a great tool, but people need to use them so that they are not, glued to them 24/7. If the tool is used properly, it can be a great asset. But with people using their phones every single day, every single hour, and every single minute of the day, it's just an abuse of the tool, in my opinion. But you know what, guys? With that all being said, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Marc Talk Podcast. If you haven't already yet, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And when you subscribe, be sure to hit that bell to be notified when I post new content. And please, guys, share this podcast with everyone you know and on social media. It will really help the podcast grow, help expand the brand. So I would really appreciate it if you shared this podcast, liked it, posted it all over social media. Do whatever you have to do to get it known out there. It would really help me out, and I would really appreciate you guys helping me grow this podcast. Anyway, guys, I think that is going to do it for this episode of the Marc Talk Podcast. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.